Start.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Welcome to our Community Standing Strong webinar, March 17, 2016. How can our partners help sustain peer-to-peer efforts? And we hope that you have a very successful webinar, and we hope that you learn something from this webinar today. So what I like to do, I would like to go ahead and remind you on some things. First, I would like to remind you to please mute your device once you join the call. And if you have a question, please write a message in the chat box, and we will give everyone a chance to ask questions throughout the meeting and at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. If you are using more than one device this meeting, please do not place next to each other to reduce echoing or feedback, and make sure that your speakers are turned on. Next slide, please. So today, the big question is, what do we want to sustain? So for order us to maintain our peer-to-peer technical assistance, these are some of the things that we had came up with that what we want to sustain and how we want to sustain it. We want to share our stories of strategies and success, and that we also want to connect with our youth as well. So we want to continue. I know some of us already connected with the youth, but we want to continue on doing that. And we want to recruit new members as well. We want to build partnerships and obtain funding. And also we want states participating in employment first, and organize around our issues, and build and strengthen our organizations. And strengthen our organization. So when we think about that, the next question that comes to our mind is, well, how and who will do this? Well, first we want to know how. Well, we'll do it by social media and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, website, blogs, webinars, and listservs. Increase accessibility of our message through closed captioning, screen reader accessibility, regional meetings, face-to-face connection, host a national conference in 2018. So on some of the states and partners who had agreed that said that they would do this is People First of Georgia have volunteered to set up a listserv, and Mississippi SelfAdvocacy and the UCSS volunteered to help with the webinars and conference calls. And then we have Florida, Alabama, North Carolina, and Georgia. They have indicated that they may be interested into hosting the 2018 National SAVE Conference. And then perhaps a regional effort to organize the conference and a regional would be possible as well. Next slide, please. So really we come down to, really after all that, we end up coming down to, after we discuss that, well, coming down to with the funding about how much would it cost to sustain our efforts. So I'm going to hand this part over to Vicki.
Hello, everyone. If you remember, as Chiquetta said, we talked about this at our last advisory committee meeting that we had, and if you remember that we talked about that the coordination cost to keep everything going would be approximately $35,000, webinars, conference calls, $5,000, travel for face-to-face meetings for lodging, $10,000, food for meetings, $2,500, and in the past those were donated by our groups in our states, and then state efforts, to continue their work on blogs and needs assessments and their plans would be about $40,000. Next slide, please. Regional projects that we might want to work on would be about $7,500. If we had a 1.5-day regional meeting and we paid for all participants to come, and we increase the numbers of attendance, would be about $25,000 for the participants. And then the national conference is about a $500,000 minimum. Of course, most of those funds, are recouped through registrations. So the total cost of organizing our effort, keeping our efforts going, bare minimum would be about $100,000. You had to pay for everything, up to about $575,000 to have the conference and maintain parts of it. Next slide. We talked about getting our money by sharing activities with each state. Some grants specifically, we talked about Mitsubishi Electric Youth Leadership, and with a due date of June 1, and they fund about $10,000 to $75,000, and their emphasis really is on youth. Other ideas for getting our money would be from the DD partners and from an AIDD project of national significance, perhaps the national that we hope is coming out around the National Self-Advocacy Technical Assistance Center, that there would be funding for regional efforts within that. Next slide. Again, we would get some of our money perhaps from the Save Voter Project to work on some regional efforts such as voting. The committee that would look at the Save Conference and to get supporters for that to help offset some of the cost for that. And then, there was a mention of that if we could connect with some celebrity who might, have a personal interest and would work with us on a project. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to turn this back over to Chiquetta, because we are going to talk about very specific things about how our partners in the project. And when we're talking about partners this time, we're talking not only about our DD network partners, but we're also talking about the self-advocacy organizations in the state and SAVE. So I'm going to turn this back over to Chiquetta.
Okay, thank you, Vicki. I'm going to go ahead talk about really with the DD councils first, and we're talking about with what kind of activities that what they can do. So what we have done with the DD councils, we had add they can add the OCSS and SAVE activities as funding and the priorities in their 5-year plan. And what activities is that support self-advocates and their supporters to participate on advisory board of the regional center and participate in regional meeting and regional and national conference. And their peers as leaders to participate in instructors. So that's one of the things that we have came up with the DD councils could add. If you could like go ahead and work with the DD councils, and that we know that they have a 5-year plan. That what they can do, they can add that in their 5-year plan, and never know, they might be already do have some of that in their 5-year plan. But first, I would like to go on to the next slide before I ask, is there any questions or any comments on that, or does anyone else have any ideas? Next slide. OCSS and SAVE activities has funding priorities in their 5-year plan. Support self-advocates from there to participate in regional self-advocacy leadership training institute for the year and new leaders, for the youth and new leaders. Next slide. Support the development of experience of self-advocates in the production of the blogs, and webinars that tells personal stories about the power of self-advocacy and address their issues. Next slide. Support with funding the collaboration of the OCSS states to sponsor the 2018 National SAVE Conference. And that we will give like $10,000 per state. Next slide. So right now, I'd like to ask, are there any questions and comments on with the DD Council?
This is Brittany. So if I'm understanding this correctly, these are the things you just read are things that Vicki, are we wanting to ask our DD Council to put that in their 5-year plan? Is that what we're saying?
Chiquetta, you want to answer that question?
Or Chiquetta, Vicki, whoever.
Yes. That is what we are asking. That's what you are understanding, and that's what we want to ask our DD Council to go ahead and put that in their 5-year plan.
Yes, we're asking. Go ahead, Chiquetta. I'm sorry.
We want to go ahead to encourage the DD Council to go ahead and put that in their plans. Some of us don't. Some of us already have their support, and that maybe some of of the DD councils probably already have it in there already.
And I'm going to piggyback on what Chiquetta was saying. Most of the DD councils, lots of them would have self-advocacy in their DD plan. What they may not have in their DD plan is support of regional efforts around self-advocacy. So yes, as Chiquetta said, one of the things that the state groups, we're asking the state groups to do is to ask their DD councils to include very specifically activities that promote regional peer-to-peer technical assistance through our current, system of bringing us together and telling your stories through vlogs and other types of in ways such as vlogs and blogs and webinars. So yes, the answer to Brittany's question is yes. We are asking for DD councils to very specifically address that. But as we go on, we're going to ask for the state organizations to be the ones who are making the request along with us.
Ebony had a question.
Okay.
Ebony, if you want to say something, you would have to unmute your end.
Yes, Vicki, this is Ebony. I'm sorry, I lost my voice on yesterday. But when we speak to the DD Council directly to see, about the 5-year plan and putting these things in our 5-year plan, do we title it regional advocacy efforts when speaking to the DD Council? How do you properly title this when speaking with them?
The answer to Ebony's question is yes, that's how it be phrased. We're going to send you, after this webinar, we'll send you some points that you will use, talking points, which will be very similar to what we're presenting today, that you will use with your DD councils and other partners.
Okay, thank you very much.
If there's not any more questions at this point or comments around the DD Council, let us go on because there'll be plenty more opportunity. Shall we go on?
Yes.
Okay, with the protection and advocacy organization, we want to add support of regional peer-to-peer self-advocacy as priority for PNAs. And the activities that we want them to work on is work with self-advocacy groups about closing institutions, work with state groups on legislators, and we want them to provide technical support with technology, listserv, and media relations. Next slide, please. We want to add support of regional peer-to-peer self-advocacy with the OCSS and SAVE as priority for PNAs for them to work on both project with the state self-advocacy group and work on employment state self-advocacy group. Next slide. So now, are there any questions or comments? I open it up for questions and comments.
What self-advocacy groups would also be doing is very specifically asking the P&As to partner with you and with OCSS on regional projects such as Project Vote or Closing Institutions, which really is Long Road Home, that Georgia, the People First of Georgia has been working on. To partner on employment first initiatives, and to also offer whatever technical assistant resources they may have to the work in the states and the work in the region. For example, one of the things that the Alabama P&A had done had worked with SABE on the technology handbook and helping us put together the handbook in an accessible version and to help us, get it in a final version. Another example of this is that we're working right now on a regional project. We talked about, doing some updates of the technology handbook with, doing some video vlogs that are around the topics that are in the technology handbook. And the youth, well, I know this is not a P&A, but the youth said, we'll talk about youth heads in a minute, but the youth said in Mississippi is with their self-advocacy team will be helping put some videos together on technology and helping us with closed captions. So if a P&A had those types of resources, then they would also work with us, and we would be asking the self-advocacy groups to ask them to partner with them and with us on those types of projects. And I think we have numerous states that are doing Project Vote.
Vicki, so Alabama P&A, we're going to do some videos from the handbook. Is that what you...
I'm sorry, some videos of what,
You were
Brittany?
talking about the technical, you were talking about the technology handbook, and so now we're going to do, we have gotten us set up where we're going to partner with them to do videos of the handbook.
No, we have not had any response on that, so we didn't know that Alabama was going to work with us on the technology videos. We'll have to talk more about that.
I don't know.
After this,
I missed that one. I'm sorry. I think that's the one where I was.
Right. Because I had, we could talk more about that later. But that is a great example. If that's the case, we just did not know Alabama wanted to work with us, so we need to talk about that.
I don't know. I thought that's what you just said. I thought that's what you were saying.
No, not Alabama, but we were talking about the Mississippi. We've not gotten an answer, from Alabama. I talked about what the Alabama P&A had done with the technology handbook that we produced, 2 years ago, that they had worked with us on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can definitely see if we can help with videos.
So are there any other questions or comments on what we're saying about specific ideas of how our partners can help us? If not, we're going to go ahead on to the youth set. Chiquetta.
Okay, you said we want to add OCSS, say, regional peer-to-peer activities as priorities in their strategic planning. And we want the youth said to provide support to self-advocates and to their organizations in learning to use social media technology and the access to technology resources. And we want them to provide a resource to serve on a committee to write a grant for a youth leadership academy and submit to Mitsubishi. Next slide, please. Are there any questions or comments? Or any ideas? What you said.
Ebony has a question.
I have a question. When you talk about getting each state to work with the youth, do you suggest that each state go and see what youth leadership groups are already available in the state, and then partnering up with those groups to see what type of projects we could all do together and then try to sustain? Would that be a suggestion?
Yes.
That would be a great suggestion.
Because
And
I know in South Carolina, just as an example, I know we do have some youth leadership groups, but it's a matter of partnering with them and seeing what's available. So I was just asking, not only for South Carolina, but could it be a suggestion for all states to see what youth leadership groups are in their state and then partner with them?
excellent point, Ebony. Great suggestion. Great suggestion. I think, and then piggybacking on that is that if we come together and decide to write that grant to Mitsubishi, then we would want to have those organizations be a part of that so that the regional leadership academy idea could actually come from those groups in those states, so they could showcase what they're doing and train, basically provide this as instructors in this leadership academy.
Vicky, I have a question. What youth leadership groups are you talking about? Like, I mean, are you talking about like People First, or like what? I'm a little confused by when you say the youth leadership groups. What? Like, are we looking
Ebony,
for?
do you want to give some? Ebony, would you like, or Chiquetta, give examples of what South Carolina has?
Yes, I can give some examples. For South Carolina, Able South Carolina, which is another advocacy organization. They are big on youth, and they design every summer about 7 to 9 sessions for a community leadership academy. They accept applications, and it's specifically for youth that they go through trainings and they do sessions, and it's a part of Able South Carolina, but it's the EQUIP program, and they do it during the summer months. I believe starting in May, they start taking applications.
Brittany, back, and also in Alabama, People First of Alabama has done Yale youth, the youth leadership project, but there's also other projects in
and,
Alabama.
Yes, and we have been, the Duty Council did extend us to be able to do more training, another batch of trainings this summer for youth.
Right.
From the young
And there's a
people's
couple of
leaders.
others in Alabama too. The Troy has one, or did have one.
Yeah.
And then you've got that new transition initiative that's going on with Jacksonville. Is it Jacksonville State? But anyway, there's a couple of others in Alabama. I think the independent living centers has some leadership, youth leadership. But that's what we're talking about: pulling together in your states those groups, and then having the USEDS work with y'all to put together a grant, perhaps going for a regional youth leadership academy where, representatives from all the states would act as instructors to further, folks' development of leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one example of a grant that could be worked on.
Youth for us. Advocacy for us.
So if there's not any more comments or questions right now, if we can go on, and then we'll have a couple of other opportunities for questions and comments before we end.
So we move on to the state self-advocacy organization. That we participate on advisory board for regional center and support the regional peer-to-peer efforts through involvement in governance and management of center. What activities appoint 2 self-advocates to continue work on advisory committee, board of the center, provide a staff person to coordinate activities of the center, and state group manage finances the center. Next slide, please. And we want to meet with their DD Council representatives regarding including regional technical assistance in the plan and make requests for a commitment of $10,000 per state in the Center for Basic Operations. Next slide, please. And talk with their USEDS about choosing a representative to assist with writing a grant for regional youth leadership training academy, and talk with P&A to work on special issues such as voting, employment, closing institutions, and legislators. Next slide, please. Agree to collaborate and host with the regional center and the SAY 2018 National Conference. Next slide, please. Continue to coordinate the center, manage the finances.
Chiquetta, excuse me real quick. On this particular slide, there's an error on it. This is the slide that talks about what SAVE could do instead of self-advocacy organizations. So if we could stop just a minute before we go into that slide and open it up for questions or comments about what we've just said about self-advocacy organizations.
All right. So now we'll open up for questions and comments.
One moment.
All right, well,
All right, everyone's unmuted.
I'm sorry, Shaquetta, this is Ebony. Could you go back through the self-advocate slide that went over kind of quickly, or could you put it up on the screen so that I could view it again to see if I have any questions? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so what we have said was about the state self-advocacy organizations to participate on advisory boards for regional center and to support the regional peer-to-peer efforts through involvement in governance and management of center. And what activities is to appoint 2 self-advocates to continue work on advisory committee and board of the center, and to provide a person to coordinate activities of the center, and to state group manage finances for the center.
Is this a regional technical assistance center that we're talking about?
Yes, Ebony.
Okay.
I mean, yes, Brittany. That's the whole thing we're talking about. Yes.
Thanks so much,
Okay.
Whitney. I was
Just
going to
wanted to
ask
make
that
sure.
And let me just jump in here for just a second and mention a couple of things. This is one way that we could maintain the operations of the Regional Technical Assistance Center, is that instead of SABE operating it, one of our states could operate it. That is just one model we could follow, which would mean that the self-advocacy groups in the state one of them would manage this center for our states. So that's one way that it could be done. And when we talk about SABE, it's not the only way, but it is one way. So that's you know, self-advocacy.
Push no. No.
That I'll take over organizing everything is what could happen. So anyway, I'm going to mute myself and let Chiquetta go on.
You want me to tell him?
Can you see all these, Ebony?
I think Ebony's on now.
Chiquetta?
Yes?
Okay, you want to go on, and Ebony, do we need to review the rest of this again, or you kind of have it in your head what she was saying?
I'm good. You can go ahead. It was just that last slide that went kind of fast. I'm good.
Okay. So are there any questions or comments about that, or any other further questions? So if not, we're going to go back and talk about what SABE can do.
It didn't come up, did it? Hmm. You can't get this. Hit that green
So
one.
what SABE can do is to support the regional peer-to-peer efforts through management of technical assistance to state self-advocacy groups and governance and management of center. What activities is they could market regional center through social media, assist the regional center in the sponsorship of the SAVE 2018 National Conference. Next slide, please.
So just one other comment about that slide is that SABE can go ahead and continue operating, the regional technical assistance efforts as it is if there is funding to continue that. That's one model that we could take. If there's not funding to continue it, we can still work to facilitate, the coming together of our states through our representatives, regional representatives, or if there is money, then a state could do it, or we could continue to do it. That's kind of what is being tried to. That's what we're trying to say in that particular slide.
Where's the thing?
So,
questions and comments.
Chiquetta, could you see if we've got any partners on the phone that would like to comment on what's being presented?
Are there any partners on the phone?
Hello? Can't hear me.
Yes. Yes.
Can you see me?
No, they can't see you either, so...
Yes, David, go ahead.
Oh, there you go. He wanted me to explain this because he's still under the weather with what's going on with him. But what he was trying to say in that little blurb he typed was there was a project through UNC Chapel Hill that put together a self-advocate like for high schools that was a program of where you could be part of a chess club or whatever, but it was like the SCA and stuff, but it was an organization in the high school, and it taught you how to be self-advocate and then to advocate for things in your high school. That project has a lot of groundwork that got done and books that go with it, and they lost their funding, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. But that might be a project that the Mitsubishi bunch would like to work on because it is youth-related and it's in the high schools. And I know at one time they were looking for something like this.
Well, that's a great idea. Perhaps that could be structured into the Leadership Academy, and then each state could be taught from those booklets to go back to their states to implement.
Would you like for him to send you some of these booklets so you could look at them?
Chiquetta, do you think that's a good idea?
Yes, I think it's a good idea.
And out of this also came a workbook called The Road to Work that was used in the high schools to let high school students start looking about how to do employment, whether it's traditional job or microenterprise or whatever. But that was all part of this Speak Up and Be a Self-Advocate.
Speak up for yourself.
Tell him you'll send them to him.
Right.
That'd be something that the committee could look at as we're talking about writing that grant.
Can y'all just send him an email of who or where to send it to, and his staff will send it out?
He could do just if he wanted to a reply all to the announcements that we send out, and send it to everyone if you would like, or you can send it to me and I'll send it to everyone.
Okay, well, I was talking about the booklets.
Oh, you want to? You don't have them in a electronic format.
I can check and find out if they still have one. They used to have one.
If they do, if they don't, we'll get with you to who to send it to.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have any partners that would like to comment on what's been talked about?
I have one more thing for Power the Dream, which is Anna Cunningham. One of their biggest concerns about trying to get stuff done with self-advocates is transportation, and that has been a huge problem in the past 2 years here in North Carolina. And that was something, her husband just had spine surgery, so she didn't get to participate today.
Uh-huh.
Has anybody got any idea how you're going to do transportation? I mean, there was going to be a conference that was going to pay registration and your hotel bill and your meals were included and everything, but nobody could come because they didn't have transportation.
This is Ebony from South Carolina. Have you guys ever thought about maybe using technology for a big part of your meetings? Because I know it's important to do face-to-face, but sometimes if you have the technology available, that they could, still attend the meeting and have that face-to-face interaction. So I know that's helped me in speaking up in South Carolina, is that I can't get to a lot of places as well that I need to get to, but I always make a mention of, can you make this meeting available with some form of technology? So I think that's important. It's just my suggestion.
They've been doing technology for pretty much everything, but everybody's wanting to get together once a year in a statewide conference, even if it's a one-day event, and they can't get transportation for it. So that's what Power of the Dream.
So maybe something as that you could, if we're talking about, some regional activities, maybe that is something that we could focus on as we continue our efforts, is brainstorming around how to do a community mapping around transportation to figure out what all possibilities might exist, and then figuring out how to connect with those folks and pay for it. But anyway, thanks so much for the comments, and that's certainly something that keeps coming up over and over is transportation. And I think technology offers a whole lot to everyone, but there is still, that need for one-on-one connections, even if it is just once a year. So again, I'm going to ask one more time, do we have any partners that want to make any comments? If not, Chiquetta, you want to go ahead and complete the presentation?
Yes. So our next face-to-face meeting, our meeting prior to say board meeting, be July the 5th through the 6th, 2015, Orlando, Florida.
And I do want to mention that still may be a tentative date. That may be still a tentative date, but that's the target date at this point.
And our meeting will be considered a regional meeting for Region 6 and 9 for stage. State may bring up to 5 participants, and we will only pay for 2 rooms per stage for a maximum of 2 nights. And meeting will begin at 4 o'clock on July 5th. Focus will be on finalizing our sustainability and youth leadership training presentation by state. Next slide. Dates to remember. Do now return W-9 and your contract if you have not already. And submit first quarter invoice if you have completed the requirements, some state vlogs and quarterly reports are outstanding. And submit the second quarter invoices by April 5th with quarterly plan update. Next slide. So our webinar date, my next webinar will be April the 21st, 2016. And our topic will be leadership training, curriculum. And May 19th, we will have our advisory meeting. And July the 5th through the 6th, our face-to-face meeting will be in Orlando, Florida. So our webinar time will start on 3:30 Eastern Time, 2:30 on Central. Again, thank you all for participating on this webinar. It was a great webinar on today. Thank you for your ideas, and you had great suggestions and great questions. And again, thank you for your time.